and gentlemen, boys and girls, yes, it is I, the one and the only, Kenneth the K-Rock Klein, star of this incredible podcast called Krocking, Locking, and Dropping with the K-Rock. Hey, that's me. I like that already. And folks, I gotta tell you what, it's gonna be a bit of an emotional podcast today because this is unfortunately gonna be the last podcast. And fortunately, it's going to be the first podcast. In case you guys don't know by now, it's the brand new year. Yes, sirree. We are approaching what we actually are going to be in 2025 as of this podcast, which will be posted on my YouTube channel, KWCLINE91, along with Podbean and Spotify, the other place where you can get your podcasts as well. And folks, I am excited for what 2025 is set to bring to me as well. And folks, I know that this is normally a podcast where I give out my sports takes and everything and maybe talk about some other stuff, but today I'm going to step away from that for just a moment. And I'm going to begin 2025 by giving you guys a little bit of a recap of what I did over the holiday season. And folks, I told you guys that I had a surprise trip in store planned, and folks, I went on my vacation and I went on my Christmas trip. And where did I go, you ask? Well, I could have easily gone to my vacation spot or some of my places with family members down in Louisiana. I could have hung out with my parents outside of Houston, and maybe I could have gone down south to Alabama, Florida, or, other places. I could have maybe done New York, but I've already did New York, although New York around Christmas time and New Year's Eve is a great time to be as well. But folks, I didn't do any of those things because this year, my parents and I, along with a few guests, I'll get to that in just a moment, my folks, family members, and I, we all went down to Yes, folks, we went to the wonderful place known as Hawaii. Oh, man, I tell you what, I finally got the farthest state in the United States out of the way. And, man, we went down to Hawaii, and let me tell you what, folks, it was an incredible experience. But it was also kind of some things that you wish you could have done better. You could have had a little more fun in as well. But you know what, folks? That's the hardest part. When you only have 4 days to go on a vacation, starting around Christmas time, and I'll tell everything that happened up to this point, but when you have like 4 days of Christmas vacation, because you got to get back to work before the start of the new year, yeah, it's one of those times where, hey, you just got to appreciate it all you can as well. But folks, let me tell you what, this was a experience that I really wish, I could have enjoyed, I had more time in as well. But ultimately, it is what it is, and you just have to live by it as well. But anyways, folks, let me tell you something. I had some mixed feelings about this trip. On one hand, I enjoyed it. I loved going down there, learning about new cultures, seeing the vacation, enjoying the beaches, and then, of course, just, I like the luau. Man, I'll tell you what, those hula dancers, whee, great performers. And even the fire tossers or whatever they do, the fire dancers, yeah, they were fantastic and all that. So I got to experience all that, got to enjoy all the scenery and the sights and all that. But you know something, folks? This was, to me, like, remember that book, The Best Christmas Pageant Ever? Or there was a spin-off to that book. It was The Best Worst Halloween Ever book. Remember that kind of book? Or The Worst Best Halloween Ever? To me, this might have been the best worst Christmas vacation of all time. Now, folks, I'm not gonna lie. I liked Hawaii, and I would love for an opportunity to go back to Hawaii if I can. But I gotta tell you what, folks, this is it was a trip that I think kind of took the best out of me. It was very emotional, and there were some good moments and there were some bad moments as well. And so for this podcast, I'm going to be telling my entire story of the Hawaii trip as well. And so I'm going to be giving out all of that. Then I'm going to be giving out my New Year's resolutions, things that I really hope happen to be next year or this upcoming year in 2025. I may or may not be giving out my NFL predictions depending on the time, just because there's just a lot to take into with this particular trip. But then I'm also going to be talking about some of my rematches, like sports rematches that I really want to see from a Houston sports fan perspective. So stay tuned, folks. I'll be right back in just a bit. All right, folks, here we go. My Christmas vacation, the best, worst Christmas vacation ever. And let me say, folks, as I've said on the previous segment, I love my time in Hawaii. I love Hawaii. Great place to go, whether you go during the Christmas time, the summertime, winter, or, well, Easter time. Hey, you name it, you got it in a way. So I'm definitely grateful to have gone to Hawaii, and I love to maybe get an opportunity to go back there if need be as well. But, folks, let's talk about my trip. And I got to tell you what, it is an odyssey in a way. So, I left my workplace Saturday, December the 21st, and went back to my parents' place. I spent that Saturday night, I spent Sunday night, and then Monday night, all in my parents' place. Just kind of prepping up for the trip. Had to buy a few things, some sandals most notably, and then maybe some kind of bathing suit because, man, I'll tell you what, it's been a long time since I've actually done some swimming or gone anywhere with water in a way. But I had to get a bathing suit, I had to get some sandals, and yeah, that was pretty much the only things I really needed. But yeah, so I got everything checked up. So, December 24th, Christmas Eve, we left my parents' place, and we were going to be joined by my sister and her boyfriend. Now, let me say this, folks. As great as Hawaii is, never make it an odd person situation unless it's a family of five. Basically, this entire trip, what was about to take place, there were 7 of us. It was me, my parents, my sister, and her boyfriend, and my brother and his girlfriend. Now, those 2 were going to join us later the day after. But, yeah, so the whole trip for me was kind of going to be a tough one because 7 people and you had 3 couples. I'm the odd person out. And that, I'll tell you what, it was going to put a little bit of pressure on me, and it was going to make me kind of awkward. And don't get me wrong, I love, my brother's girlfriend and my sister's boyfriend. I love those 2. They're great, and hopefully those 2 can stick around for a while, a long time. Who knows? But we'll have to wait and see how everything pans out there. But, for me, it was just going to be really tough, because as I'm the oldest of 3 kids, and I have yet to be in a relationship, and that's just the hardest part for me. Just being able to, not being able to have someone with me. I'm just a single guy, 33. I currently live in an apartment all by myself. I'm doing all I can, but I know it's all part of God's timing. But sometimes I wonder if there are some things that God's punishing me with by not letting me experience some of the things I want in that particular moment. Maybe he's just saving them for a little later, but yeah, it's not easy being a single guy in your 30s, and it's frustrating when you have everybody that's either in relationships or married with kids and everything. So, yeah. But I'm not to get too far into that stuff. I know I was a little sidetracked with that story, but I figured I'd just throw that out there. But anyway, so it was going to be 7 people going to Hawaii. Now, my brother and his girlfriend were in Dallas, and they were going to fly up to San Francisco, and then they were going to make the trek across the Pacific Ocean to Hawaii. Our group, which was me, my parents, my sister, and her boyfriend, we decided to go a little different direction. We flew to L.A., Los Angeles. Now, folks, another thing I want to point out real fast, I don't believe, even though this was my first landing spot, first time flying to LA, It is not an official visit. I don't believe if you're flying to a city which you've never been before, you have to be out of the airport and walking around the entire city for it to count as an official visit. So I don't consider me being in the airport, LAX airport, a visit in Los Angeles. I hope to be back to Los Angeles, and I hope to be back to San Francisco. I need to get to LA and San Francisco. I already been to San Diego, California for a different event, but I don't consider those visits in LA. And I don't know if my brother would have considered his time in San Francisco for one day a visit. But anywho, so my we went to LA. We flew from Houston to LA. It was about 2 o'clock, and then we landed in LA about we'll say about 4ish or something like that, or actually 5. Got to remember that they are backwards as far as their time. They're about 2 hours behind. But then we had to make another long flight to Honolulu, and this was about a 5-hour flight, at least 5, close to 6 hours, depending on how fast the pilots were going. And I'll tell you what, folks, I never flew in a 777 before. Maybe I did once, but I flew in like kind of a first class situation. Not that my parents are not overly rich here, okay? We're just good, moderate people. We're just good people, you know. My dad worked really hard, and there was an opportunity that supposedly the airport, the United Airlines said, hey, you got to make up some miles on your vacation. So you have an opportunity to go on a vacation. So my dad decided, hey, let's just, my folks decided, hey, let's just go to Hawaii for Christmas and, just use up the mileage and everything. So, and we all took that as a really great opportunity. So that's the story that I got from it. But anyway, we flew to Hawaii, and I was flying in 777. Some really interesting movies. The Dirty Dozen I watched. One of the Donald Sutherland movies. I know he passed away in 2024, but he was in it. Yeah, Jim Brown in it, and then there were a couple other guys, Charles Bronson, and I can't remember the lead actor's name. But I had that, so it was my first time watching The Dirty Dozen. Then I picked up on another familiar film, The Natural, Robert Redford, Glenn Close. I mean, it's one of my all-time favorite sports movies ever. So definitely had 2 good movies to watch. We landed in Hawaii right about 10 o'clock-ish or so in their time. So then we went there, and we got on in the airport, and we were given our lays. You have to take them and accept them because that's the Hawaiian tradition of saying, welcome and all that. You have to kind of be accepting of it. And I was fine with it. So I took the lay. We got on a bus, me and my folks and our friends, my sister and her boyfriend, and we drove down to the Waikiki Village, which is like a resort where they had like multiple towers, multiple different types of hotels. So the thing was, my sister and her boyfriend had 2 different rooms, but they were going to be in one tower, while my parents and I shared a room in another tower at the location. And let's just say that my parents and I, we were in the same room, but there was at least 2 beds and a couch. Guess who got the couch? Yep, I got the couch. So unfortunately, I had to sleep on that. And it was a couch that turned into a bed, okay? So it turned into a bed, and I slept there for the first night. But then afterwards, my mom's like, you should probably save up time by just sleeping on a couch. So I said, okay, fine. I was sleeping on it like a couch, So that's what I slept on for the rest of the time there. So it was Christmas Eve, and then it was Christmas morning. So we were about 5 hours behind everyone in the central time zone. So I knew that most everyone would be awake before we had our chance to wake up as well. So I get up the next morning, and we, all had a great time. We went down, and there was a lot of people there. We found a place to eat at a resort, great restaurant, and, we just had a really good time. We didn't really do too much on Christmas Day, just because, we just kind of hung out there, and we waited for my brother and his girlfriend to arrive. But there was a downside to that day, and y'all know me. I'm not happy about it, but the Texans got clobbered by the Baltimore Ravens. And let me just say, I'm just disappointed. I kind of figured that the Texans were going to lose, but I was really hoping they put in more effort against the Ravens. And I don't know. I'm just starting to question whether this is going to be the beginning of a magical run or we're going to have to wait till next year to wonder if it's going to be our time to get to the Super Bowl. So, but yeah, I was disappointed with the outcome of the game and really crushed. And yeah, that's really tough. But aside from that, my brother and his girlfriend arrived, and we all hung out at our hotel room. We exchanged stockings, so we had a few interesting gifts. I won't get into details of what those gifts were. But then we went out to a luau, and I'm kind of glad I remembered this because I was wondering, what did we do that Christmas Day? I might be getting old, but fortunately I remember we had a luau. We went there, and it was really enjoyable, to be able to try to do the hula dance and all that. My brother sort of went a little above and beyond that. I won't describe what he did in a way. And so we had the luau, and we ate the food there, and we watched a really good show. We saw the fire performers, we saw the hula dancers, and we saw some of the performers do the haka. Like it's all part of the tradition of that, and of the folks that did the show, and they were tremendous. Well done, executed performance on their end, and it was really a joy just to be a part of and to experience. And so we did the luau on Christmas night, and then the next day, December 26th, which happened to be my dad's birthday, so he turned 62. Happy belated birthday, Dad. So the next day, we actually went to Pearl Harbor. Yes, we went to the site of one of the darkest days in the history of the United States. And, there's definitely a lot, it's hard to kind of imagine because nowadays it's like a tourist site attraction. There's a museum, there's a gift shop, there's stores and all of that. And there's a place where you watch the movie, a little movie talking about, hey, what happened on December 7th, 1941. And it's hard to imagine that years ago it was this military battle site, or military site for the United States, who were just trying to protect the United States from any incoming attacks from the Japanese army. And the Japanese army, when they bombed Pearl Harbor, knew that in order for them to have a legitimate chance to win a war against the United States, they had to destroy Pearl Harbor. So that's what led to them bombing the United States on December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy. There were other reasons as well, just some tension and everything. And, the funny thing I saw in the museum was President Franklin Roosevelt actually wrote a letter to someone in the high command for the Japanese army saying, hey, we want to have peace. We don't want to have any conflict. Let's just resolve this issue. Let's talk about it so that way we don't cause any problems. But by that point, it just seemed like it was too little too late. And that's what unfortunately led to the attacks. And then, in the museum, there was replicas of, you saw all the battleships, you saw all the, air carriers, because this was around the time when the battleships were really, they were still around, but they really weren't the strong point of battles anymore. It was starting to turn into the era of the air carriers. And you saw all battleships, and one of them, of course, being the USS Arizona, which was one of the 3 battleships that were sank to the bottom. And that was the site where it still remains, like it's darn in the water, which is covered up by a U.S. memorial site for all the 1,000 victims or so that perished in that tragedy. And the ones that survived, were real fortunate, real lucky to get out of that escape. But, so the USS Arizona, which was a battleship that we went to, we had to take a ferry across, and we had to be very respectful and very quiet because, again, this was a burial site for all the victims that lost their lives. And you get there, and there are a few crazy things. Well, interesting things. I won't say crazy because that's maybe a little too much, but interesting things. So the first thing is that there is still oil leaking every day, ever since that day. December 7, 1941, every single day the ship is leaking 10 quarts of oil per day. and that tells you how bad it was from that attack. And so, and all the you can't go fishing there obviously because the fish are toxic from that, and obviously you can't go swimming there because that would have been a whole lot worse. So, but yeah, it's just crazy, and you're seeing the sights of a ship underneath. Like you don't see most of the ship, like you see a bulk of it as well, but you can clearly like you have to get an aerial view of the ship to understand what it lies below that memorial site that you're on, and it's really interesting. The other thing, of course, is that inside the memorial are the list of the names of all the, you know, all the victims and all those that perished in the Pearl Harbor site. And then, of course, there were these two tombs, extra tombs. All of them had the list of names. Now, these were the names of those that survived the attacks, but had since passed away. And needless to say, when we got there, we found out that all the survivors on the USS Arizona had passed away. The last one being passing away in 2021, so a couple years ago. So it was a real eerie sight, and you just think about looking at around. It was a beautiful sunny day, and you just wonder how, like, you could just imagine what they must have felt, what the soldiers felt like when they first saw the planes of the Japanese, and I'm sure there was looks of surprise, confusion, and shock, and obviously there was a lot of chaos. It was, I mean, when you have a loss of life like that because of the chaos, you can understand why. There was no execution, no order. Like they knew there had been reports of an attack coming. They just didn't know when and what kind of attack. And the funny thing was that there was a Japanese submarine that had actually been sunk. And you think at first, well, maybe it was a submarine attack that they were talking about. But nope, it was a whole lot worse. And yeah, so leaving that resort, it was very emotional and very touching in a way. So we left Pearl Harbor, and we ended up going back to the hotel. Well, we ended up going to a restaurant, and we watched the end of the Pittsburgh-Toledo game, and that was an interesting game. The way it just kind of finished out, double or six overtime classic. I forget how many overtimes it was, but we just had a good time. We finished out the day in Pearl Harbor, and so that was very. Oh, and by the way, there was also the USS Missouri that was located there, and then the USS Missouri was the site where the Japanese officially surrendered to the United States on September the 2nd of 1945, yeah, I want to say. So yeah, that it was right there, standing and overlooking the USS Arizona. And then the other thing that I learned, there were two other ships, the Utah and the Oklahoma. I don't know about the Utah situation, but no one knows to this day where the Oklahoma ship is. Like, it was supposed to be carried out, but then stormy weathers unfortunately led to the Oklahoma being sunk to the bottom, and no one knows to this day where it is. So it's likely that people might not find it, but man, they did say that they would never find the Titanic, and look what happened there. So I'm sure people are still looking for it, but it's it's a mystery. So just a couple of thoughts on the Pearl Harbor site. So anyway, that was the 26th. On the 27th, we actually took a tour bus, and we went around Hawaii, and we went to some very interesting sites. We went to a lookout point, which we got to see the overview of a nice island. We went to a temple, the Biota Temple, I think is what it's called. I could be wrong, and if you're listening to this and you know what I'm talking about, I apologize. So we went there, and I almost had Singapore-like feelings when we went there, because the temple kind of reminded me of all the times when we went to Singapore, and we went to some kind of temple-related thing. It was really unique. Of course, we had to be respectful, be quiet. We had to take our shoes off, and we walked inside the temple, and yeah, that was that. Then we actually drove by I'm getting a tongue twister here. Kuaoa Ranch. I think that's how you pronounce it. This is the ranch where they have filmed some of the most iconic movies. Movies like Jurassic Park, King Kong, and Jumanji, just to name a few. There were others, and there was another tour that you could have gone to the ranch, but we ended up going on the outskirts of it and just seeing the valley. It was amazing. Then we ended up taking a picture on a beach right next to another mountain, which we really liked at that time. We ended up going to a restaurant called Pounders. We ate there. We then shopped a little bit on the tour in the shopping center for a little bit at least. I ended up going to a Polynesian cultural shop and bought a few things for a Christmas exchange, which we had later on. But then, of course, we continued the tour. We went by some waves, or actually drove past some waves, which we were really amazed by the sight of the waves, the ones that the surfers had to compete in during their surfing competitions. And then, of course, we ended up going to the Waimea Falls waterfall, which you can actually swim there. So we took a 25-minute walk just to get there. And let me tell you, folks, when you are dealing with a bunch of people all trying to swim there, fighting for life jackets, and having to encounter a rocky entrance just to get to the water, which is actually freezing cold, yeah, it's a real enjoyable sight. I mean, we all loved it, and it was really great just to swim there as well. The waterfall itself, I mean, I'm not saying there was anything wrong with it. It's beautiful, but it's not like there were some waterfalls, tropical waterfalls, that can pour down better. So, I mean, it is kind of what it is, but we had a really good time swimming there for a little bit, and so we, enjoyed our blast. We then finished out the tour, going to the Dole Plantation, which is where they make all the fruits and stuff. And that was pretty much the bulk of the tour. Now, our tour guide, I mean, he was a real interesting person, but I felt like sometimes he was expressing his family issues, family dynamics in a way. And you know what, folks? Like, don't get me wrong. I mean, I feel bad for the guy with all that he's doing. He's talking about, how he and his son don't get along because, I guess, there were some issues over, hey, the son didn't want him to come to a wedding and all that. And I feel bad for him. But do you really have to do this? I mean, I don't even know if it's all for show as part of the tour or if that's what he's really going through. I mean, either way, it just seemed like maybe it was a little bit too much in a sense. But he was a really good tour guide, great guy, really very happy as well. And then, folks, I went ahead of myself. There was one more thing about this trip that we had planned. By we, I mean myself, my siblings, and their significant others. Because my parents were celebrating their 40th wedding anniversary for this trip. They'll say, we only took this trip because of the miles that we needed to get for our airfare and all that. But folks, it just happened to coincide with our parents' wedding anniversary, 40 years. And so we decided to surprise them. My sister was able to get us Hawaiian shirts that had the pictures of our parents from their wedding day. Yes, their wedding day pictures from that day in 1984 when they got married, and they stamped them on the Hawaiian shirts. My sister did, and it was such a joy. I really am, I'm really glad that this was made out in the right way. And so, yeah, I had a very enjoying time celebrating the wedding anniversary with a surprise. And I know they were surprised as well. And it was just a really great day. And then, of course, we had the fireworks show that night. And, yeah, it was just tremendous. Now, Saturday, the 28th, I think it was the 28th, or it might have been Sunday, I'm lost track of the times. But the 28th, this was the day, we just didn't really do too much. We just hung out, we went down to the beach, and it was really tremendous. And, ended up going through the Pacific Ocean and just spent the whole day just kind of relaxing and, really having an enjoyable time. But then that night, we ended up going to dinner, and because we were leaving the next day, so it was all 7 of us. And, the unfortunate part for me was having to listen to conversations about my parents, my brother, and my sister telling stories about how they met their significant other persons. And that's hard for me. As I said earlier, it's really difficult just because I'm single. I don't have anybody in my life, and I was really hurt by that, and I was really sad and disappointed, and you know, it's just one of those things. I just felt kind of embarrassed. Like, what's the point of me being with the family when all you're going to do is talk about, how you met each other? Like, am I going to have that opportunity? Am I going to find someone where I'm going to introduce them to my parents and then they're going to ask me the same question? Hey, how did you meet your significant other? Am I going to have to do that with my brother and his girlfriend and my sister and her boyfriend? Because who knows? They may be they may be the ones. I don't know. It's still early to say. But am I going to have that opportunity? Because I feel embarrassed about that. And I'm not blaming anybody. I'm not blaming my parents. It's just, it is what it is. And it's really making me sad. And in fact, it's really making me sad that I'm considering starting to go on these dating apps to try to find somebody. And then there was another time where I started thinking about my friends and everything. And there was this one girl that I was thinking about. She was in my Sunday school class. We both went to the same high school. Now, I don't have like a crush on her. I never was interested in her, but I was just thinking about her for some reason. And, I follow her on social media, but she hadn't really posted any pictures where, she was with somebody else and dating somebody and all. And so, me being curious, I looked up and I find another friend of mine who knew her. And I said to this friend, hey, listen, I know you're friends with this person and all, and not that I'm interested in her, but I'm curious to know, is she seeing anybody and all of that? And the reason I asked that question was because, number one, I was curious, but number two, I didn't want to get myself hopeful that maybe I had a legitimate chance with her. I mean, it would take a lot of work to try to woo her over in a way, but maybe I had a shot. But if she was seeing somebody, then hey, I might as well just go ahead and just say, you know what, that's hers, and I'm happy for her. And I never really was interested in her in the first place. I don't want to feel like I, had a secret crush on her for that matter. And I just didn't want to feel like I was ready to, try to pursue her when I really didn't feel that way for her. And so I asked a question, and this friend who knew the girl that I was thinking about, she responded and said, yes, this person was seeing somebody, and, we're very happy for her. And in a way, it was relieving to know that she was seeing somebody because I didn't have to pursue that. But it also kind of made me sad and upset because that just happened to be on the very same day that we left Hawaii. And, I had a lot of emotions going on. Number one, obviously, was the emotion of seeing another, I don't want to say potential person, but just seeing someone else in a relationship. But it just kind of made you sad in a way. It kind of broke your heart. Not that, again, I didn't have a crush on her, but it was just that kind of feeling. Number one, so that was number one. Number two, you're getting on board a plane. And I'll tell you what, folks, there had been a number of plane incidents that had taken place while we were in Hawaii. And I'm sure some of y'all probably heard about what happened in South Korea. There was, unfortunately, a massive loss of life when the plane landed, and only 2 people survived. And then you had an incident that happened in Canada, and then there was like another incident that happened. I think Russia was involved, although I don't know the significance of that story. And I was worried that, with all these number of incidents, that you feel confident you're going to get there, but you're still kind of nervous because you just don't know about these pilots and everything. But you have complete trust. You have to put your trust and faith in them, and I did. But the first flight from Honolulu to Los Angeles was really bumpy. I mean, we're talking about turbulence. Now, my parents, they didn't really seem to be bothered by that. I was a little bit bothered by that in a way. And so we had some turbulence, and it was really nerve-wracking just because I felt like at times the plane was going to break apart because, it looked kind of old and it looked like it's seen better days. But fortunately, we were able to land safe and sound in Los Angeles. And so then we, get to Los Angeles, and we're waiting in the airport. Our flight was supposed to leave at about 6:30ish or something to that effect. Well, the problem was, the flight was delayed. And the reason the flight was delayed was because they were delayed. The flight was they were delayed in Cancun, Mexico, which is another interesting set of circumstances. But there had been a delay down there by 2 hours, and ultimately they ended up showing up later than normal, and then you had to get all the passengers out. They had to go through border customs in a way because they were in an international country. Then they had to clean the plane out and all that as well. And so we didn't really leave until, let's say, 10 o'clock at night. So that would have been 2 hours behind. So we ended up landing at about 2:40 or so. So I had a long sleep ahead of me. And then, of course, compounded by the fact I had to work a basketball game the very next day. That was very intense. So I had all that. But we were able to land safe and sound and had another good movie to pick. Another Donald Sutherland classic. Kelly's Heroes, the one with Clint Eastwood and company. So, yeah, it was very intense. But I'll tell you this. I felt very confident about my last flight. And the reason I felt confident was because there was a celebrity that was on board the plane. Now, when I say celebrity, this is somebody that you probably might not know about unless you're a diehard WWE wrestling fan. Now, I'm not a wrestling fan myself. I don't watch it as much. I mean, I've seen bits of it, but I wouldn't consider myself a true diehard. But Mike the Miz Malzoni, or I don't know if that's how you pronounce his name, but Mike the Miz Malzoni, who was also a reality TV star, formerly of The Real World and all the other challenge type of games, which, I mean, there's too many challenge seasons, let's put it that way, on MTV. He was on the plane. And I felt very confident right then and there because I knew that, hey, the plane, it's very serious. He's got a big show, Mike does, and he had a show in Houston, WWE Monday Night Raw. And if you can get on board the plane with this guy, you're in good hands because I feel like there's a very high percentage chance that you're going to make it. And we made it. It was foggy when we landed in Houston, but I knew that with Mike Mazzone, who was actually a couple of rows behind me on the plane, a WWE wrestler, celebrity, I knew the chances of me getting back were very good. So, Mike Miz, if you hear this ever, you might call me crazy, but I just want to say thanks, man, for easing my nerves, even though you probably don't know who I am and all of that. But hey, I'm awesome, just like you are. Let's put it that way. So, yeah. So that was, we finally landed, and that was pretty much the extent of the trip. We got back to my parents' place at about 3:40 or so. I had to go to sleep. I slept for almost 8-9 hours. I got up at noon, got stuff packed up, and drove right back to Beaumont. And I was able to work the game that very night. So very grateful for the trip to Hawaii. And I had a great time. It was an enjoyable trip. There were some ups and downs about it as well. But man, I'll tell you what, it was just an unbelievable experience. And I really think everyone should go to Hawaii. Heck, man, I want to go back to Hawaii. I'm still in a Hawaiian mode, okay? For real. Like, I just want to get on the plane and go back to Hawaii. Well, maybe just take a cruise to Hawaii. I mean, it might take a long time, but hey, at least we'll get there. So, yeah, I definitely would like to go back to Honolulu if I can. But, yeah. So, pretty much the basis of it. Now, I would say that it's probably one of those once-in-a-lifetime trips that I might not have again as well, but I'm glad I'm able to cover another state. 23 states to keep track of my goal of reaching to 50. Unless you want to count Washington, D.C. as a state, that means I would have conquered 24. So, real happy that I had the opportunity to go to Hawaii. And, it is kind of tough, especially when, you're the only single person in a family and you're on the beaches, you're looking around and you're seeing all the joy and the smiles of people doing these fun, great activities. You see all your six-packs and sexy backs. That's what I call them, because you have men with the abs and the women with their gorgeous bathing suits. I could go as far as the bikinis and everything, but I don't want to go there. It's just, it can be intimidating at times, just being out there on the beach. But I realized that nobody cares about what you look like or so. I mean, they're all there just to have a good time. And I will admit there was one time where, um, I didn't want to embarrass myself with a private family picture that we were done on the trip. But hey, I've moved past it, so it is what it is. But man, I definitely would like to go back to Hawaii. I mean, I'm still thinking about that trip all the time. And could I have maybe done more opportunities? Or could we have maybe done more? Probably. But, the hardest part was we had 4 days, which isn't really much. But hey, 4 days, no matter what, it's always grateful to be in Hawaii. But I think the biggest thing was we didn't really, like, we had opportunities. We had some things we could have done, but I guess from my end, there was that feeling of, hey, do we really have enough time to do this? Because, yeah, we want to do Pearl Harbor. Yeah, we want to go around, tour Hawaii. We want to go to the beach and everything. That's what you really, would like to do. But there was, like, some other stuff that I wish we could have done. And it may be a while before I get back to Hawaii, but you know what? I'm glad I went there. I know I've said that a couple of times. I'm just a joyful person in a way. So yeah, the best, worst Christmas vacation, more on the best side. But yeah, I'm hoping for some opportunities to go to more places like that, luxurious places. I mean, somewhere in the Caribbean, somewhere down, I don't know, just anywhere that I can enjoy the nice little tropical paradise. And who knows? Yeah, we'll maybe get an opportunity down the future. But anyways, folks, that's basically my Hawaiian trip as well. I'm going to come right back, and we're going to be talking about my New Year's resolutions. So stay tuned, folks. We'll be right back. All right, folks. So 2024 has come and gone. And while I am sad that it is over, there is a part of me that's glad it's over because I've definitely had some tough moments for this year. But fortunately, starting a podcast was an enjoyable moment, and I'm hoping to continue on and give you fans more exciting times. But anyways, folks, I do have a couple of New Year's resolutions for me. And, one of these things, or I guess you'd call resolutions, hopes, or dreams, or, whatever. One of these things may or may not happen. Some of them might, some of them won't. But at least you always got to hope and pray that they do happen in a sense. So, with that being said, just kind of wanting to get my things off my chest, things that I hope happen here. Like my first New Year's resolution, hopefully, is I go on another trip. Now, I don't know if I could ever top what I did in Hawaii, but, I would like to get another state out of the way. As a matter of fact, I've had 23 states accomplished. I need about 27 more. And looking at the map, I pretty much conquered the entire South, and I definitely need to pick up Nevada, Oregon, and Montana, Wyoming up in the West. In a way, so I do need to conquer those states of the West as well. But the Midwest has really been the one that, has kind of been, it's the one that I'm kind of missing the most. Like, I am missing a whole bunch of states. So, Kansas, Iowa, Minnesota, the Dakotas, Nebraska, Indiana, Ohio, Kentucky, we can go on and on about this, but just getting those states as well. I mean, wherever we go, I hope to get those states accomplished. And I certainly would like to hopefully get all 50 U.S. states in there. And that does include Alaska in a way. So hopefully I get that opportunity down the line. Anyway, so I would like to travel to another state if possible. Maybe that's a possibility because another New Year's resolution that I have is an NCAA tournament appearance. Now, last year, our women's basketball team at Lamar went up to Washington to take on Washington State. But that was for the Women's Basketball Invitational Tournament. And the reason why we went there was because we won the regular season Southland Conference title in our program. So we were guaranteed to go to a tournament. The question was it going to be the NCAA tournament or the WBIT tournament? And we ended up we had to win our Southland Conference tournament. And unfortunately, for the second year in a row, we weren't able to do that. And I'm hoping that this year we can get there and we can win it, because it's frustrating when you lose 2 years in a row. And you don't want to become like the Buffalo Bills of the 90s or the Texas Rangers of the 2011-2012 season. Listen, guys, I know you won a couple of years ago, but I'm still going to remind you about that. And I know you'll remind me of other stuff, but at the end of the day, I'm going to win that argument, okay? Okay. Now, but in all fairness, I really hope that we get that opportunity, to go to a U.S. NCAA tournament, and hopefully we get a chance. Now, I already went to California, but I haven't gone to Los Angeles, as I said. Maybe that's a possibility. Hopefully, maybe we can go to South Carolina. Now, South Carolina's got some great, adventure sites, or not. I said adventure sites. I'm still thinking Hawaii. Darn it! It's got a great basketball team in a way. So they're still one of the best teams. Maybe we play them in the first round. Who knows? But we got ways to go before we can get there. But I do hope this is the year we can make it to an NCAA tournament as well. And personally, I want to start dating. And I know you're probably saying, "Well, man, K-Rock, aren't you still working on yourself and all that?" Well, yes, but I want to try to get myself out there more. I want to take chances, because I feel like at times I've been kind of sitting back and really, wondering, am I really good enough for somebody? Because, when it comes to me and women, I don't know. Maybe I just don't have a lot of confidence in myself, and I want to get that confidence. And I'm not necessarily looking for the right girl, although that would be nice. I hope to find someone in the future for me, but I don't know if I already know her. Maybe I feel like I know this girl already, but I don't know. Maybe I've yet to meet her, but who knows? I want to feel like I can bring someone home to meet my parents and not feel like I'm an outsider to my younger siblings who have dates already. But I do want to start dating and take some chances and all that. And it's going to be a lot of work. I get it. Maybe the problem is I need to first find some friends, and maybe that's what I need to do. But there's just so much questions that I have with regards to the dating subject, and I don't know. Maybe this last trip kind of really hurt me. Like, I talked the story about how I was curious to know about a friend of mine, whether she was dating someone or not, and just coming back home. Like, another thing that's kind of bothers me, there is this one girl that I do particularly have a crush on, but I'm trying not to have this crush on anymore, because I think she is seeing somebody, and I'm trying to be respectful, and I don't want her to feel like I'm putting her in a position that could be very awkward for our friendship in the future. And that's the thing. Like, I don't want to hope that she breaks up with this person if she's still seeing someone. I don't want her to, break up with this guy, because I feel like she deserves happiness. And, my thing with rules when it comes to women is, if I'm friends with a girl and I get really close to her, and, I kind of find myself maybe feeling for her, and she starts seeing someone else, I might have to, say, "I'm sorry, but I can't be your friend anymore." And that's the one thing I don't want to have happen, because this is someone that I really like, but this is someone who's been a really good friend to me, one of my best friends all these years. And I think, I'm just trying to come to a position where I can be content, where I can still see her as a friend, and also as, someone that, I really can care about as a friend, and, be happy for her if and when she does get married to her husband. And, I was talking about this with my mom. A lot of my friends are in relationships, but there is a possibility that not all these relationships are going to end well. And I don't want that to happen, because I feel like with most of my friends, I feel like they found their significant other. But it's so hard, just because you know that the number of divorces is pretty much 50-50 at least, or maybe a little close one way or another. But ultimately, I'm hoping that they can somehow work through all the kinks and stay together forever. But I know that that's more than likely not the case. So that's just the way I look at it. So, but I do want to, maybe get into the dating scene. Take it easy at first, and then we'll see what goes there. And I feel like it's going to come, but it might take some time afterwards. Now, hopefully in the future, and I hope maybe it's this year, we could see the Texans in the AFC Championship game. We could see the Rockets make a playoff push, and we could maybe see another World Series for the Astros. I do want to see a rematch between them and the Dodgers, so that way we can shut up those Dodger fans for once and for all. You know what's funny? When we were in Los Angeles waiting to return to Houston, there was a mother who had two kids on each arm. One was wearing a Dodgers cap, the other was wearing an Astros cap, and I was kind of surprised that a kid was able to get wear an Astros cap. I'm sure he was coming back to Houston, but my dad, asked the woman a question: "Hey, who wins the debate in the, in the family, the Dodgers or the Astros, and all that?" And I was kind of a little embarrassed because I still am a little bit peeved off over everything that transpired in the first World Series, which to this day I am going to say again, regardless of what happened, the Stros were still going to win that year, okay? Get that through your head. But yeah, I was a little peeved off. I didn't want to talk about it, especially there, and I know my mom was a little bit annoyed by my reactions, and I apologize to her again. So, but yeah, that was kind of one of the craziest and bizarre things and all that. And so yeah, my dad being really nice and all that, I wish I was like him in that particular moment. And so, but yeah, I do want to see a rematch of World Series, and also a rematch of the Astros and the Rangers, because I feel like I cannot let a Dallas team beat a Houston team again. I do want to see the Texans in the Super Bowl, still potential, even though the chances of them winning are very slim to none, given the circumstances of the team and the injury concerns and all of that. Plus, we need a new offensive coordinator, and I'm just hoping to have some happiness. I want to have some joy for my sports teams in a way, and I hope that happens, because I did say, and I guaranteed on my other podcast with Mark T. Robinson that all of my Houston teams were going to win a championship this decade. So far, one team has done that, the Astros, and now I'm still waiting for the Rockets and Texans to follow through with my guarantee. And I'm willing to admit to be wrong if that doesn't happen, but I'm still hoping that happens in the future. So basically, sports success, dating, and then maybe conquering another state, and then just trying to be a little more confident in myself, and continue to do this podcast. And this is a great thing that I'm doing. I like to be out there in the podcasting world, but we'll see what happens in the future. But for now, that's just pretty much all I have for it as well. So anyways, folks, that's just pretty much the bulk of it. My thoughts on the Hawaii trip that I went on. I really had a great time. I hope you guys have a great chance to maybe go to Hawaii in the future. It may be expensive, especially getting there as well. You're probably going to have to experience a lot of jet lag on the plane. But hey, find yourself some good movies and make the most of the opportunities that you get as well. Anyways, folks, that is going to officially wrap it up for this edition. Hopefully next episode we talk a little more on the NFL, the playoff situations and everything, and then other sports topics that we like to talk about as well. But folks, I hope you guys have yourselves a really great start to a new year as well. I know 2024 might have been the best year of your life, maybe the worst year, maybe somewhere in the middle. But I hope that 2025 will end up being the best year of your entire life. So with that being said, I hope you guys have yourselves a really great start to your new year. Happy New Year once again, and I will see you guys next time on another episode of Krocking, Locking, and Dropping, which, by the way, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel, KWCLINE91, and then also to Podbean and Spotify. Until then, have yourselves a great time, and I'll see you next time.